Welcome to She's Got Guts, where functional nutrition meets ancient wisdom to bring you grounded insights and practical tools for your wellness journey. Join Laura, licensed Eastern medicine practitioner and wellness wizard, and Molly, registered dietitian and gut health expert, as they unpack trends, tackle bloating, balance hormones, and help you thrive in modern womanhood without completely frickin' losing your mind. Let's do this. Hi.
Hi. How you
Just
doing?
us today.
It is just us today, which is nice. I get to look at your beautiful face.
Same. So excited. What was the best thing you ate this week?
Okay, I made this salad. I've been really focusing on trying to invigorate my liver energy because I think my detox pathways are a little stagnant, but I don't have time for like a full in-depth, like phase one, phase two, really get in liver detox thing. So I'm like, I'm just gonna do the things that I know how to do that are little tweaks for my liver that are helpful. And for me, that's eat a lot of greens, that's sauna, sweating, laying on the gems mat, making sure I'm getting enough exercise, lots of water, but also sour and pungent things. The Chinese medicine, real like the liver's flavor is sour. And so things that really kind of like make your mouth water. So I did,
Mhm.
and bitter. And bitter is good for the liver as well, especially bitter greens, right? And I realized that as I have been getting older, I don't love bitter tasting greens. Like I used to just totally get down on them. And now I'm like, oh man, I got to put this dandelion in here, this arugula in here. We can do it. And I'll mix it up with like the microgreens and the romaine and stuff, which is exactly what I did. Oh, sorry, it was red and green leaf lettuce because I really enjoy red
Mm.
and green leaf lettuce. I like the little baby ones. So anyway, I did that, all those four greens. And then I sprinkled some sauerkraut on the top, just, the basic stuff from Trader Joe's. I added some pistachios. They're really high in iron. So I figured that would engage my liver. I also sprinkled some hemp seeds over it. And then I added just a over medium egg with a little bit
Mm.
of brewer's yeast, just a teeny bit. I can't do too much brewer's yeast. And then instead of like an actual dressing, I did just drizzled some olive oil and some balsamic over the top. Again, the balsamic is like pungent and sour. And I felt pretty good afterwards. Like I had to do a lot of chewing. Protein and greens,
Yeah.
you just have to chew so much.
Yes.
But it was great. I enjoyed it. What about you,
That's
dear? What
awesome.
did you eat?
What did I eat? So I've been doing some different experiments and with like chicken and marinades and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
so one that I really like is pickle juice with Italian seasoning and garlic.
Wait, what do you do with it?
You marinate chicken in it. And
So you have a chicken,
Chick-fil-A,
like chicken breasts.
yeah,
Okay. And then you pour pickle juice,
avocado oil, garlic, like smush it up a little bit, and then Italian seasoning.
Italian seasoning, and you're just letting it like slow cook. Whoa.
Well, no, I marinate it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, you're marinating it. Sorry, I missed that
Yeah.
part.
So it's like you put it in there, let's say like you put it in there in the morning, and then I flip it because it's not like totally submerged. So I'll flip it halfway through the day and then grill it. Yeah. That's what Chick-fil-A does to
Loving
make
this.
their chicken so good is they marinate it in pickle juice. I'm sure the pickle juice they're marinating it in has a lot of sugar. This one doesn't as
Yeah.
much, but there's some.
And salt.
Um, but it's nice because it's giving you all of those flavors. Like the vinegar is tenderizing and the salt and the sugar and the dill and everything are giving it flavor, without you
Yes.
having to really think. And then you don't throw out your pickle juice.
Yes, I love this idea. I really enjoy my pickle juice. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I love this. I'm so gonna do it.
Right.
And you're using breasts. How do you feel like that would work with thighs? I'm a thigh
Oh,
person.
same.
Same,
Totally
it'd be
same.
fine.
Mhm.
Are you like
Yeah,
the type that
anything.
like pokes the holes in the meat before you marinate it, or you just plunk it in?
So you can poke holes. I think like you could bang it kind of like take a rolling pin,
Mm-hmm.
put it in a bag and take a rolling pin and just like bang it a couple times. That'll kind of
Mm-hmm.
loosen up those fibers.
Sure.
Or you could, yeah, certainly I guess like poke holes in it, but that's not what I do. Um,
Yeah. Well, you're the
but
chef,
yeah,
which is why I asked. I want to know what the top tips are from the chef here.
well, it's been nice because it's really easy and it tastes really good. And then you can do it with like anything. So asparagus just came in to season here.
Oh, yes,
And
I
like when
love
you're in
it.
the store and it's just like,
Yes.
especially
And
after
you
the
know it's not
winter
from Mexico.
and everything that normally in the winter is like, but like,
Yes.
yeah, it's been beautiful. So that baked potato, and then you have like a little meal, or you could do it with salad, or you could do it with like a rice bowl or a farro bowl or a
Mhm.
farro.
Yeah.
And yeah, so good.
That sounds amazing. I'm so gonna give that a try. I love it. I love
Yeah.
those. I feel like the spring that the spring is the season of the liver and those
And
like sour and greens and spring, detox and movement. We're coming out of the winter. It's time to move are such an important time. I think our bodies tend to kind of crave that. So I really love that you
mhm.
kind of defaulted to being like, what do I need right now? You really found your what your body needed based on intuition and a lack of wanting to waste pickle juice or in a need for not wanting to waste pickle juice.
Well, it's just so good, you know?
It is, especially if it's like garlicky and dill and all that yummy stuff in there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so good.
pickling's rad. What did you see in the World Wide Web, young lady, that was
On the
exciting and
World Wide
mentionable?
Web, most recently, there are so many. You know
Oh
what's
my gosh,
interesting
yeah.
to me? I've been calling the back and forth in the health world, kind of like the Real Housewives of Maha. It
Yeah.
makes me feel better about the whole
Yes.
situation. But okay.
Yeah.
So there's something out there. Oh yeah. So getting healthy, the wellness, there's like a lot of vitriol against the wellness community. And as two members in the wellness
Yes.
community, I think that's hard for us. But getting healthy is just for privileged, wealthy people. Deep breaths, $0, going out in nature, obviously, meditating, gratitude list in the morning, putting off the internet in the morning, sunshine, walking, talking to people in your community, like putting your phone on airplane mode at night. Some people turn the Wi-Fi off in their whole house. I don't do that. I could, but I don't. Um, you know, understanding what your why is and then not, eating out as much. Those are all
Mhm.
things that are in comparison, right? So
Yeah.
I do think that it's important to remember that, yeah, sometimes we get caught up in like the influencer culture or like the, link this, link that kind of a thing. And I think it can be helpful when someone you trust links something that they've tried and you need that
Hmm.
thing. But
Yeah.
also, I can see how, there are a lot of people that like in digging around in TikTok shop, I've just seen the way that it works with these supplements and UGC content. And it's just incredible that, like the crappiest supplements that you could ever buy are the number one product selling on TikTok shop right now. And it's like, wow, just because they put money into the right kind of marketing in this moment. And then, then they become top on Amazon because people don't want to use TikTok shop. So they go to Amazon. And it's like this company that isn't that good. You know what I mean? So I can understand why, yes, it seems like everything is $100 and a lot of things are really expensive to be. But like the same goes for high quality food. The same goes for, high quality dress versus like a Sheen dress or however you say that. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like you just have to pick like what your priorities are, I guess. And so that's what I wanted to say. There are so many things that you can do for free that have such an impact on your health, but they don't feel as satisfying as buying something.
Yeah.
Maybe it
That
feels like you're not
dopamine dump.
doing enough, but
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. It's also, as you were saying that, I'm thinking, oh, I love the idea of having more free, like easy habits to fall into that are, and you're right, there are so many that are so free. Um, it also is hard in the bubble of right now with so much scarcity and the ability to kind of survive being our, you know, um, foundation right now that when those things are so helpful when you can make I guess I'm saying those things are so helpful when you can make a routine out of them and they become part of
yeah.
your normal life because we're under such an attack of scarcity and just our humanity and so many other things in our world that it can lay down a really nice foundation when it seems so helpless and you're like how am I going to put food on the table, am I going to have my social security, am I going to be able to vote, all these things are really scary But if you can make those other things, a foundation, at least maybe you'll come out energetically somewhat even by the end of
Right.
the day. Yeah.
Well, and the less time you spend on the internet and the more time you spend working toward your goals, whatever they are, right? They're
Mhm.
probably not scrolling all day or whatever. Then the less money you're
Yeah.
going to spend, the less you're going to sense that whole kind of agenda that's being pushed, whatever side you're on, and the less that you will take on other people's problems, right? Like their
Yeah.
own personal fears and blocks and whatever it is. So
Yeah.
there's no downside to working on those habits.
That's so true. Okay, I'm gonna put my glasses on here real quick so I can
Put your
see what I
glasses
was
on.
talking about.
Let's hear it.
I'm getting my specs. But so Isabella Wentz put up something a little while ago, and I loved it because sorry, I'm just pulling it up here. Sorry, it's taking me a moment. It was kind of similar to what you were saying. And it's a POV, right? Like it's a point of view that you're going out for sushi with your wellness obsessed bestie. That she is sitting there saying, "Oh, I would really like to have this salmon, but mercury or
Mm,
toxins or bacteria. Oh, I think it'd be really great. I'm actually really want this one with avocado, instead of having, no sashimi or whatever. It's too raw." But just over and over and over, like she found something wrong with almost every part of the menu. Or
right.
what I should say is that could be wrong. Like you actually
Yeah.
don't really know what's going on in
Right.
there. As even if you are that informed of a consumer, where you can literally say all of these things can damage me in one way. And all I could think is, okay, sure, it's nice to know, pick your battles kind of thing. It's nice to
Hmm.
know what may or may not be harmful for you, but also what a terrible way to set up your nervous system to enjoy a meal and community. Like, let's just sit here and talk about everything that's terrible about this menu before we go
Right.
in and eat it. Like that, I'm
Right.
sorry, that's not setting any of your systems up for success, although it was quite hilarious. I really enjoyed it. I was like, oh, yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. Yeah, that's not how I want to roll through going out and eating a meal because also going out to dinner is extremely expensive these days,
Yeah, it's a treat.
especially sushi. Yeah, 100%.
But also, you don't know. First of all, you're not eating that salmon every single day. So the chances that any
Mhm,
mercury that's in it, that particular salmon, is going to accumulate in your
mhm.
body are very low. Like all of those
Right.
things, it's like, okay, well, it's a microdose of whatever you find wrong with this. Anyway,
Yeah. Yeah, and if you're leaning on those habits you mentioned in your post, your body's probably going to be pretty ready to handle something like that comes in.
right, right. Okay, so our topic today, tell us
Chinese
everything.
herbs, let's do it. Yeah, so today I thought it might be kind of fun to talk about just conceptually how Chinese herbs are helpful for basically anything. Like in Chinese medicine, herbs have been the gold standard, along with acupuncture and other things, but herbs are really where you are going in and juicing up the organs and the systems to work better. And you get to do it every single day. You find you find form factor that works best for the patient, and they can be so incredibly helpful. And I feel like a lot of the time what we see out there is something that's an extracted supplement, and it might have a little bit of it in there. Like one that I can think of that I know is really popular that some of our listeners may even have experience with is by Integrative Therapeutics. There's a one of their products is called the cortisol manager. It has
Yes.
phosphatidylserine. Yeah, people use that a lot. I've used it many times during stressful times when I want to bring down the cortisol before bed. And it actually works great throughout the day and whatnot. But there's, phosphatidylserine and some B vitamins, I think, some passion flower. But there is an herb in there called Hopo. It's magnolia bark. And in Chinese medicine, it's very settling for the heart, very nourishing for the kidneys, great to settle the mind and, you know, um, temper the nervous system, which is
Mm,
beautiful. But you see it being combined with other stuff that wouldn't necessarily normally be combined in traditional Chinese medicine, right? Like they're taking little pieces of like, oh, that's a great herb to throw in here for that. And then that's not a bad thing. I just wanted to talk today about how, what was the ode to combine traditional Chinese herbs. And so what we call it is feng ji. Feng means like actual paper, and ji means
mhm.
like a creation. So fungi, how are we going to create an herbal formula? That's like when we sit down with our patient, we're asking all sorts of questions. We're going to fungi our way to a formula. And what's really cool to think about is that so many people have experienced going to the doctor and getting a diagnosis and having a prescription. Like that's what we know in Western medicine. And in Chinese medicine, it's very different. We have a phrase that we use, which is yi bing tong ji and tong bi ying ji. Yi, yi zi, excuse me. One disease has different treatments and different diseases have the same treatment. So essentially, it's the root of functional medicine too. Like we talked about with Brehan in an episode or two ago, it is, Chinese medicine in its theory really was the original functional medicine. We look at systems, how do they work together? So, I was thinking about an example of this, and I took a moment and looked up how many different patterns there are in this database that I can use for diabetes. And there was over 50 patterns. And what I mean by pattern is you have all these organs. They each have a function that they do, and they have like an action, or excuse me, they have like a function and an action, but then they also have like a storage or, a holding that they do. Like there's some yang and there's some yin. So let's talk about diabetes. Diabetes, we call it like wasting and thirsting is like the sentence we use with diabetes. So you have, usually you're hot, you have big pee, big thirst, big appetite. Those are kind of the quintessential things that you look for when you're looking at symptoms for diabetes. And why would I, maybe go get your blood sugar tested? And one of the patterns we might talk about would be like liver and kidney yin deficiency. So liver, like the detoxifying organ, kidney right along with it. So what that might look like is that how we would maybe translate that in Western medicine or words that we can understand is we're trying to maintain the fluid balance and the pathways. So let's say that you go choose some random diabetes formula, but it doesn't match what your pattern is. So let's say the diabetes formula that you found is more for the spleen and the kidney and not yin shu, but yang shu. So yang shu means that your presentation is going to be very cold. So for this person, they may have more of that diabetic pattern where they have really non-healing sores on the legs and lots of, pitting edema, and they're colder and they have a lot of adipose tissue, as opposed to that person who is looking more like they're burning up their fluids so quickly and they're thinner and kind of emaciated, right? Like that's diabetes. Those are definitely two diabetes pictures, but you would use a very different treatment for them. So same disease, different treatment. And you can do a lot of damage if you just go and say, oh, I'm going to pick this diabetes formula and it's spleen and kidney yang shu, because you're going to be adding more cold to a already cold person. And that's not going to do them any good. So what it really comes down to is looking at what is the pattern, right? Like what is this pattern? And in Chinese medicine, that usually means that you're naming some sort of organ, and then you're applying the other concepts of the body, like blood and dampness and yin and yang. Like, where are things functioning? Where are they not functioning? What's your blood doing? Is it stuck? Is it stuck in a certain organ? Is it stuck in a certain tissue? Are the fluids flowing properly enough? Are they flowing too fast? Like with diabetes, for example, big P, you are going through fluids. Like that's too much. We don't need to be losing that much fluid, because often that means that we're losing a lot of other nutrients that we're bringing in. So that leaves you in a state of depletion. So we're looking for the root and we're looking for the branch. So that's one thing that I think is extremely different than Western medicine. They kind of approach it that way, like, oh, I'm sure it's perimenopause, but let's go ahead and give you an antidepressant so you quote unquote feel better. That's the branch. But the root is they actually need hormones, but they're going to send you home and say you just need to eat better and exercise and lose some weight and whatever. That's their suggestion for the root with no tool.
Right.
Yeah, and you're like, cool, thanks for that. I feel zero better.
Like,
you completely avoided addressing the root. That's the problem.
Right.
And the beauty of traditional Chinese medicine and combining these, what we call them, like, it's not just herbs, because there's many different medicinals that we rely on. Some of them are twigs and barks and branches and shells, and some of them are animal parts. Some of them are And the placenta is part of the Chinese pharmacopoeia. There's all sorts of cool stuff in there that we use. But it's so great that you're able to consider what is it that I need to do for this person long term for their root that is safe, that we can choose medicinals that are really safe to move them through this time. But also, how do we address the branch so that they feel better like right
Mm-hmm.
now?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's honestly what I love about it so much is if you can sit down and talk about that person's history, how have you been moving through the world? What habits have you relied on? And typically that means that your organs are going to be conditioned to behave a certain way. And we're going to want to introduce medicinals that are going to come in and shift that a little bit and help them understand how to function in a way that's more appropriate for the direction that their body needs to go. I feel like I talked a lot. Let's let you ask some questions.
No, that was really, really interesting. And I like your point about how we go in to the doctor expecting one thing, and their process is to give you something. So the process may be the same, like I have a complaint. Okay, here's something
Mm-hmm.
that you can do about it. But for you, I just blew my mind about diabetes because diabetes, consistent carbohydrate, even nutrition, like consistent carbohydrates, like if you do have wounds, then looking into protein and zinc and arginine and that kind of thing. Um, Not alone, but as a constellation. And then, like if you don't, then working more on physical activity and that kind of stuff, right? Like more fiber for everybody. And
Yeah.
it's just not at all different. And when you say that there are two different kinds, I think we can all kind of think like, oh wow, I have seen someone, with diabetes who is more like this and with diabetes who's more like this. And
Mm-hmm.
and it's just so interesting to hear that. So I think that that's really
Yeah.
important. Now, what do they mean when they say like a stack?
Oh yeah. Well, I think stacks are fun. I mean, that's how we refer to supercube to make it palpable for people to understand. Like we have created a medicinal stack of these things when really it's all rooted in the theory of traditional Chinese medicine and how we stack things together. So in Chinese medicine, when we think about combining, we think about a handful of different concepts. Like, first of all, the objectives that we use are like, do is there anything that this herb could cause a side effect for? Even though it's the best root herb for the root cause of this person's pattern. Like this is the
Hmm.
best herb for them, but is it going to have any side effects? Yeah, it might.
Hmm.
They are that spleen and kidney yanshu picture of diabetes where they have slow wound healing and edema. But if we give them Fu Ling, which we've talked about with Brehin, and I've talked about like spleen deficiency before, it leaches out dampness. It transforms dampness. It helps us get it out. You can kind of imagine it being a little bit like if any herb could come in and squeeze all the fluid out of you. That's what Fuling does. It helps eliminate it. So what that would do is if you combine that with a draining herb, it's going to reduce the side effects and make it more gentle on the body, which is really,
Hmm.
really great. Also, Chinese herbs really don't taste that great. And if you need a bitter herb that's yellow to kill off bacteria and cause a lot of drainage, like for something that's maybe like an initial infection in the gut, or maybe you have like an infection in maybe you have a really bad nasal infection or something, you need bitter herbs in order to kill and drain it. It's going to taste terrible. So one of the concepts we would use is we want it to taste better. We're going to modify the flavor. The other thing is modifying the action. Like let's say that for this is one of the examples I wanted to talk about today was perimenopause. So when we think about perimenopause, and I'm just going to use the formula that I use for myself, their diagnosis for this particular formula is heart and kidney yin deficiency. So that means my heart is involved, my kidney is involved, and I don't have enough fluid. Deficiency we use is the word shu. So heart and kidney yin shu. What we would want to do here is think about like, what does that actually mean? Like, what what do your heart and kidney do and why are they not what does that look like what is the
Hmm.
physiology behind the heart and the kidney? So the heart produces fire, right? And what it does is its chi mechanism is to send its energy down and warm the kidney water so that we can use the nutrients that come along with it, or we're going to eliminate that water. The kidney works conversely to cool off the heart while its energy and water goes up. And you can imagine that mechanism works really well. Let's say you aren't moving your body very well and you're
Hmm.
not pumping your heart up enough, you're not creating that heat, then maybe maybe too much water is going to come down and accumulate and seep. Maybe it would look like that diabetes picture. That's a Yangshu picture. That's
Hmm.
cold and accumulation. Or let's say that maybe you are deciding to jump into a cold plunge and drink ice cold water, and you're doing it at a time in your cycle when you really need those hormones to be revving up, and you're just coming to dampen them and you cool them off. And now your heart isn't able to warm up that kidney water down below. And you get, again, this, there's the mechanism isn't working correctly. And so what I love about that is so this heart and kidney yin shu, you've got this happening, this is the mechanism, what the chi is doing. These are how the organs work, but like, what does that look like? So
Hmm.
for most people, that quote unquote pattern or a traditional Chinese medicine diagnosis is that you would feel we call it mentally restless. Oftentimes that's translated as like anxiety. You have insomnia. You can't fall asleep at night. You have palpitations and you have soreness in the lumbar area. So those first three, mental restlessness, insomnia, palpitations, those are all heart symptoms. The soreness in the lumbar area, that's a kidney sign. When we see low back stuff, we know that your kidney energy, whether it's storing or function, is involved. The other thing is five
Really?
center heat. Yes. Yeah. So five center heat, that is more of the yin shu part of the kidney and, heart and kidney, five center heat. And so what that means is your stomach, your hands, and your feet are warm. And think of a woman who is menopausal or perimenopausal. You're going to go through times where you're feeling warmer than normal. And then dryness. You might notice like dryness in your mouth or your throat, itchy skin. I think that, that's a annoying one for me. Mine's always like right on my back or I can never get it. And then other things we looked at to confirm our diagnosis would be that the tongue would need to be red and it would need to
Mm.
not have too much of a coat on it. And then you would have a pulse that doesn't have a lot of gumption to it. Like it would be kind of thin and thready, quite like how the person probably feels, right? And then it would
Mm-hmm.
be a little bit fast because there's heat there. The heat like increases things. And so bringing that back to what you were just saying a moment ago, what I find so interesting about this is that imagine that this person has been eating a standard this perimenopausal person has been eating a standard American diet for however long because that's what they learned. And you look at their tongue and you know that they're having all these symptoms, but they have this thick coat on their tongue. So they have another pattern. It doesn't always have to be one pattern. And that's the thing that I find so fascinating with traditional Chinese medicine is that you can have all of these patterns, but where are you going to start? You know what the root is. It's the heart and the kidneys. They need a lot of love. They are losing their yin in nature. They are declining in their hormones. They just do not have what they used to have. And you are going to see a symptom picture from it. So, first of all, we're going to support them as much as we possibly can and probably introduce some hormones because that's what integrative medicine does, right? Like these two work really well together. But also, we would want to make sure that we're addressing the other, maybe the branch of that. If you are
Mm-hmm.
reducing, if your hormones are declining, and, we had a podcast where we talked about the, when we have a lack of hormone, then our gut motility isn't as great as it used to be. So you might have more constipation or something along with that, which can show a really thick tongue coat. And it's like, okay, well, that's still the root of the problem. But also, we have this branch where we do have a lot of dampness and we've got some bacteria and we need to work on that in the gut. So, that would maybe be
Mm-hmm.
the branch part of what we talk about. So, we would combine medicinals for that branch. It's like a little stack of its own, but then that stack has to appropriately work with the root as well.
I
Yes.
see. So you're layering different
Yes.
things on top of each other so that they're giving you different benefits, but also work together.
Yes. And the most
Cool.
advanced formulas are the most simple. So let's say you look at this person and they have 6 or 8 diagnoses, but you can find a formula that an herb and an herb that goes along with it and another herb that goes along with it, and it helps it, so to speak, for the flavor or the direction or, some aspect of that herb we want to enhance. You can combine all of those in order to make sure that out there, sorry. But anyway, yes, you can combine them all together, and you want to make sure that they're as simple as possible. Like if you can
Cool.
take 8 diagnoses and bring it down to 12 herbs, that you're crushing it.
Right. Well, and as we know, on both sides of the coin, all the body systems work together. So
Mhm.
when you have 8 diagnoses or 12 diagnoses, usually there's, I guess, as you're saying it, a deficiency or an
Mhm.
imbalance of energy
Mhm.
in each organ system. So you don't have to
Mhm.
say high blood pressure and high cholesterol and edema. You could just say
Right.
heart, right?
Kind of. Well, high blood pressure, in remembering the basics that not high blood pressure can have many different patterns
Right.
and
Oh,
you
yeah,
can
true.
treat blood pressure many different ways, right?
True. Yeah,
So maybe
hydration
if
and
that
whatnot.
person does have high cholesterol, then maybe, phlegm is going to be an aspect of it. The liver's probably going to be involved.
Mm-hmm.
But the heart, of course, we would want to make sure that the heart is pumping the blood appropriately. It's a yin organ, but it has a very yang function. Like it's always just pumping, but it provides the whole body with nutrients because it is the most yin organ. It literally keeps the blood moving around, which makes sure everything gets nutrients. So it's the yin in its nature, but it's yang in its action. And it is yang.
Oh,
If
that's
you hear
really
people
cool.
say yin and yang, it is so not right. It is
Okay.
yang. Just
Oh, I
FYI.
see. It's a long A.
Yes. And the other thing too I
Okay.
wanted to say is that your formula can change over time. Like
Oh,
let's say
sure.
someone comes in and they have terrible pain and they also have digestive troubles and they also have hormone problems and they also haven't been eating very well and they maybe have an autoimmune disorder underneath it. Honestly, that's a lot of what you'll see in our population right now. Taking into consideration how strong is this person? What's going to make them be compliant? Like, are they actually going to take the herbs? What form can I give them in so that they are making sure that they're giving their body this message over and over again? And then how do we know once that, let's say we're really focusing with our first formula on the branch for pain, let's say, and then we've supplemented the formula for their root. We're going to move some blood, we're going to move some chi, we're going to encourage the liver and the spleen to really get those two things going. So we're going to use medicinals that match that. Their pain goes away, and it's like, okay, we need to change up the formula now
Mm-hmm.
because we kind of resolved that portion of it. So now we're going to do something
Mm-hmm.
different. Although maybe it's a chronic pain disorder that's rooted in something like autoimmunity, then maybe
Mm-hmm.
we would want to make sure those are in there, but they're not the star of the show in the formula anymore. They kind of fall back into the background. And then we really boost up whether we combine medicinals to increase the action of the next phase we want to see, or maybe we increase the volume or, the amount of them or something.
Well, it's so funny that you just said that about the liver because obviously, well, people listening or watching probably don't know, but cholesterol is like, I think of it as like a little ball, and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller from the time that it leaves the intestines to the time that it's processed by the liver and then sent back into the bloodstream to kind of be recycled, and used for cell membranes and all kinds of other really important things, sex hormones,
Oh
etc.
my gosh, hormones for
Um,
sure. Everything runs on good fats. It's awesome.
yes. But when you think about high cholesterol in an allopathic sense, you think about the heart. But like, duh, like if the liver is not breaking down this chylomicron or the big ball into
Mhm.
different pieces, and recycling it, then it's not doing its job. So I don't know why that's never really been in my, that's really cool. That
Yeah.
is
Well,
really cool.
conceptually, it makes sense to not let you, like, if you have high cholesterol, cool, we'll give you a pill that allows you to not absorb any more of it.
Right.
But they
I
didn't
know.
take
And
one
like
of the
family history
main
is a big.
objectives, which is
Hmm.
it's a side effect. Like you need fat.
Right.
You're not looking at the whole picture. Like they're like, okay, well, you're
Right.
not getting any cholesterol, so you should be fine. And one thing that's really interesting about that is that there's kind of this like unspoken understanding that the body is just going to figure itself out afterwards in Western medicine, which I
Mm-hmm.
find so fascinating. I'm like, you guys don't really believe in the body and its innate ability to heal and function properly, yet you are prescribing things as though that is the foundation of your thought process.
Yeah, it's crazy. It is crazy. And like, okay, well, and then not necessarily following up on those things to see if you still need them. Like this morning, I went through someone's medication chart and it had probably 28 medications on it. Now, come to
Stop.
find out they're not taking every single one of them, but it's like, oh, you have this, well, take this pill for it. And then, oh, you have this, well, then take this pill for it. And like, oh, your stomach hurts, well, here's some antibiotics. And it just like piles on and on and on. And it's like, okay, well, if you're on this medication that's supposed to help with diarrhea and you are coming to me because you have so much diarrhea, then it's not working. So
Yeah.
let's, like I send them back. I'm
Yeah.
obviously not going to say like, well, stop taking it because that's illegal. And also, I don't know if there's
Right.
no taking it.
Not
This is
under
not
your
my
scope of
job.
practice. Yeah.
But I do definitely say I empower people to have an informed conversation with their doctor. Like, okay, this is a long list.
Mm.
Like, when was the last time one doctor looked at every single thing on this list and talked you through,
Yeah.
like, okay, well, this is for this. Are you still having that? Does it
Yeah.
help? Because that's something I think
Mhm.
that functional and of course, other holistic practitioners really do well
Right.
is we don't want to give you like one protocol and that's it. Like it's always changing. It's always going to shift. And so with that being said, please tell us like what's the difference between a Chinese herbal formula and like oregano
Mhm.
oil, which is an herb and it's a supplement, like and Chinese
Yeah.
herbal formulas come in supplements. So what's the difference?
Yeah. Well, Chinese herbal formulas came about from people observing nature. Like it's very Taoist in its way that it observes how nature functions within itself and how that might work if we apply those concepts to the body. So maybe, there's that's a word that goes along with. I can't think of it right now, but like walnuts are really good for your brain, right? Like they look like
Hmm.
a brain in nature,
Hmm.
and then they also work for you. Like that's a thing. Kind of the same
Hmm.
concept. But in Chinese medicine, there's many different ways or form factors in the way you can get it in. Like you can take usually it's like a parchment paper bag full of all of the literally whole herbs, and you bring them home and you cook them, and your house smells terrible unless you like the smell of it. And you drink that for maybe the day or a few days. Like it's usually a few
Hmm.
days worth of what they call a decoction. Like you would cook it for a very long time. It's a little bit like you're making a soup or something, but it's and essentially just an herbal broth. Or you can do concentrated granules, which are, that's what I like to do, are the custom herbal formulas where you're just taking a scoop of these little granules that look a little bit like sand, and they're cooked down herbs and attached to usually like potato, honestly. And
Hmm.
then it will dissolve when you pour water over it. And then you're able to, it's very convenient. And you can modify those. You can buy them in classical formulas because there's a lot of classical formulas that came from this exploration of observing nature and things, and also how that human population at the time was interacting with nature. So there's a lot of classical formulas, maybe from when it was really cold outside or when it was really warm outside, that work for those types of environment for a human experiencing life at that time. You can have the granules. You can also have concentrated like tablets or capsules or whatever. But essentially, we're using the whole herb and we're combining them together. Something like
Hmm.
oregano oil, we're taking enormous amounts of oregano and pressing it into an oil and only taking that, which
Hmm.
that doesn't mean it's bad by any means, but in the sense being different is that we're looking at all of the plants that were growing in China, observing how they worked in nature, trying that out in our body, seeing how that works, and then making the formulas based on these, theories of the yin and yang and whatnot. And what's also great is that they are so on top of it in China in terms of doing
Hmm.
studies for these herbs, which is awesome. So you'll see more things come out for um, you'll see that will end up in stacks like the cortisol manager we talked about. Like you'll see hopo pop up in a formula because they're like, oh, this Chinese herb does the same thing that maybe passion flower did, and
Right.
in like European or American herbalism, we would look at it and say, well, it's a sedative and it's a relaxant and it, helps with the lowering the cortisol. Sure, those things are great. They
Right.
work in the same way. We just look at it a little bit differently. So in
Mm.
Chinese medicine, it's the whole plant. And then in maybe other supplements, you might see more of like a kitchen sink or an extract or the combination of them all. They all have their place for sure, just like pharmaceuticals do. You can't live without, a lot
Mhm.
of people can't live without those either. So,
That's really interesting. And a point that I think that you made earlier before we got on was that a Chinese herbal formula is something that grew in ancient China that they've used for what, thousands of years. So
hmm
maybe oregano oil is kind of akin to that in different civilizations because it has been around for a long time. But something like
hmm
NAD or a
hmm
probiotic in a capsule, those are not like heritage, ancient things that we've been using forever. Those are more modern kind of
yeah, they
iterations.
would rely
And then
on fermentation
right.
to get
Yeah.
something
And
like
the
that.
things that they
Yeah.
didn't, but I love that, that's such a clear distinction. And then supplements, the word supplement is used when you put vitamin D and calcium in orange juice. That supplements the natural product
hmm
with vitamins that most Americans are deficient in, right? And
Totally.
minerals, obviously, calcium is a mineral. And so a multivitamin supplement would be auxiliary to the foods that you're eating in that it adds, but it doesn't replace. And
Right.
so, that's a completely different thing than looking at the root and the branches and having them work together versus
hmm
just enhancing what you're already doing.
Those are cool too, in that when you start to see that people will have used for, let's say, Hoshu Wu, for example. It's a vine. There's a story behind this herb, and that there was a man who was banned to jail or, prison or whatever. And they didn't give him any food, and they expected him to die, and they checked on him and however many of years. And he was in there as youthful with black hair and just as great as could be because there was a Hoshu Wu vine on the, on the wall and he kept eating it. I don't know. But we know that that herb has iron in it. It's helpful. It's helpful to help you grow or to increase your blood, which we look at in Chinese medicine. When you have an abundance of blood, your liver is really healthy and you're going to have things like beautiful nails and abundant hair and your skin is going to glow, right? So you
Yeah.
connect that to iron. If you don't have that, you look pallid, you pale and your
Hmm.
hair's falling out and your nails are thin and breaking. So it's
Hmm.
cool that these concepts that we've used with yin and yang and observing with nature and the combinations and everything, when you start applying quote unquote Western science to it, you're discovering the same thing. You're just using different language.
Wow. Huh. So if someone this, do they just go on Amazon and search Chinese formula?
No, don't do that. And what's nice is a lot of the time you actually can't buy them. They're what I
Hmm.
know you wanted to talk about curing pills. Like curing pills you can buy. That's like curing pills and great acne, not
Hmm.
specific enough that they're diving
Right.
in to really tweak something that's very symptomatic. So curing pills is awesome. I love them. They're wonderful. They're really cool looking too. Usually they're like a little clear capsule and they have teeny tiny pellets in them,
Okay.
which
Yeah.
that's a traditional way of making herbs is taking the ground up herbs and combining them with honey and then rolling them into little pellets and you like eat a pellet a day or however many a day that you would need according to like what herbs you need. But the curing pills are great in that they work really lovely if you have a really bad stomach ache or if you have some bloating. The pattern with that is spleen and stomach deficiency with some heat and some food stagnation. And that can present in a lot of different ways. So maybe again, like you have bloating, your slow digestion. It could be constipation. It could be diarrhea. It might be a bacteria. There are some antibacterial herbs in there.
Hmm.
So it's kind of one of those like kitchen sink remedies that actually happens to be very safe. But within that, it is combined within the principles of traditional Chinese medicine. It just happens to be safe for like the way that the humans move through the world right now.
So you would want to find an acupuncturist or other licensed Eastern medicine practitioner.
Oh, yes. Sorry. The original part of your question. Yes. Sorry.
No, I know. I
Yes, you
love
would want
this.
to someone like myself if you want to on Instagram. I don't have like a quick little link on there. I'm working on that now. With a link tree or something to just like sign up for a custom herbal formula. But you could just DM me or email me and
So
I will
cool.
sit down with you and we'll have usually It's probably very similar to, like an intake if you go to a naturopath or if you have a functional medicine doctor or something where we're going to dig, you're going to fill out a
Mhm.
health history form. We're going to dig a little bit. We're going to write a formula. I almost always write mine for only a couple of weeks. And then we see how it goes and we adjust it. And we usually go through 2 or 3 of those periods. And then we find one that works for you. Like I've got people who are on what we call constitutional formulas for maybe things like arthritis or diabetes or something that they need more management with, and they're choosing an alternative to pharmaceuticals, and they would maybe use something like this. So sorry, long answer to you can DM me or email me and I'm happy to talk about it and write you a
That is
formula.
so cool. That is really cool because I think it feels like such a big deal sometimes. Like, oh, well, how would I even
Mhm.
get started? And to know that there are ways that you can connect with people like yourself, make it seem a little more simple.
Yeah. And you can make it really easy. Like you can just take pills for the first time and see how it goes, see if you like it. Then it's like, okay, I can do that now. Now I'll try the tea. Oh, okay. Now I want to cook my own thing just to see what it's like. Depends on where you're at in your journey.
When I was in school to become a dietitian, there was in Asheville, there's an acupuncture school. And so I would go for acupuncture, and they gave me this tea, and it had the red dates in it.
Hmm.
And
That's
like,
how
they're
berries. They're
so
so good.
good. They are
Yeah.
so good. But I
Yes.
just remember, like, it is a little like wonky, the teas or whatever, but it's so nice.
Mhm.
Like, you just feel like you're doing the right thing, like it,
Mhm.
because like you're saying, it's addressing those branches and the root. It really is
Yeah.
made for your body. And there's something very like relaxing and calming and wonderful about that.
Yeah, it feels intuitive, like it feels intuitively right. I've had people reach out and
Yes.
they're like, "I'm craving my formula that you wrote for me a while ago. Can you just write that for me?" And I'm like, "Well, sure, but also we should probably check in and make sure it's appropriate for you right now." But
Right.
oftentimes it
Right.
is because they're
Yeah.
craving like that bitter or that sweet or whatever. It feels like that's what I need right now. Like my body needs to shift in that way. So it's pretty cool.
Mm. All right, well, by the time this comes out, you will have that link, so we will put it in the show notes.
Damn right. We'll figure it out. And I also feel like it'd be a
Deadline,
fun
hey.
the yeah, thank you. I need those. I'll also put up a recipe on Lala's Wellness. I'll put up a recipe for a porridge, or like what we call porridge in Chinese medicine, for with the datsao berries that you were just talking about, because they're not that hard to get a hold of.
Yeah, I need some because they were so good, and I just like would eat them out of the bottom of the tea, and it was
You're like, I'm
delightful.
gonna have these and then drink the tea and then the rest is bye. Yeah, that happens. Oh, well, thanks for letting me talk
Okay.
about this.
Ah,
I've been wanting to like make some sense of it and make it more practical because, like you said before, it does feel very unapproachable. Like, how the heck would I even
yes.
do that? And you do need to be guided by a provider. Oftentimes, like, how do I eat for perimenopause? You need to be guided by a
Right. Or
provider if you're not one
supplements in
yourself.
general.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, totally, totally. Don't just go grabbing a bunch of expensive stuff for no reason.
Right. Because it also could be making, I mean, I think less so with herbs, but probably the same thing. There are pathways that metabolize these things, and they also
Mhm.
metabolize prescription medication. And so they can make it more or less effective. And that's not good.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can take things that are highly toxic. I was talking to my partner about this the other day, and they've been doing a lot of research on peach kernel pills for cancer.
Mm,
Cancer,
mm,
and I'm like, don't say it like that. People are going to go out and start harvesting the inside of a peach, the kernels, and start eating it when they are highly toxic. You
mhm,
cannot do that. You will get very,
mm.
very sick. They need to be processed in a way
Yeah.
that allows your body to assimilate it without the toxicity. And so
Mm,
those types of things are kind of scary to me. But yeah, always with a provider. Providers are the way to go.
yes. As tempting as it is to order injectable peptides from the internet, especially in
Seriously.
perimenopause.
Yes, where you're like, I need all the things. I need all the things. You're like, no, you don't. Let's circle back to the very beginning of the list that costs you no dollars. Even in the midst of all
Oh
this
my
madness,
gosh.
they will
Staying off
still
the
help.
internet.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for spreading your wisdom with us.
Thank you,
And we
dear.
will see you guys next Saturday.
Yep, yep, yep. Looking forward to it.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. We offer personalized support to clients in many ways and would love to work with you. Reach out to Laura at Lala's Wellness and Molly at Women's Gut Health for more information. Unlock your full health and hormone potential with Super Q, Boom Bomb, and Best Tea Check out the link in the show notes for more. See you next Saturday.